Top 50 Most Haunted Places in Massachusetts, USA, Part 3. 21. S.K. Pierce Mansion, Gardner. Sylvester K. Pierce poured his fortune into constructing this 7,000-square-foot mansion in 1875, a testament to his success in Gardner's booming furniture industry. With 26 rooms, a grand ballroom, and intricate woodwork, it was a palace for Sylvester, his wife Susan, and their 3 sons. But the family's dreams soon turned to dust. Susan died of a bacterial infection in the mansion shortly after moving in. Sylvester remarried Ellen, a much younger woman, but their marriage was strained, and Ellen's son Edward died young of a mysterious illness. Another son, Frank, perished in a freak accident at the family's factory, crushed by machinery. By the time Sylvester died in 1888, the mansion was steeped in loss. The house changed hands over the decades, serving as a boarding house, a brothel, and even a rumored hub for occult activity in the 20th century. Each new occupant seemed to add to its grim legacy. Tenants reported suicides, sudden deaths, and unexplained fires. By the 2000s, the mansion was abandoned, its peeling paint and shattered windows earning it the nickname the Haunted Castle. Restored by brave owners in recent years, it's now open for tours and overnight stays. But the waiver requirement speaks volumes. Paranormal investigators, including teams from Ghost Hunters and Paranormal Lockdown, have called it one of the most active sites they've ever encountered. The S.K. Pierce Mansion's history of death and despair has made it a magnet for spirits who refuse to rest. The Hauntings, a mansion that fights back. Stepping into the S.K. Pierce Mansion feels like walking into a lion's den. The air is thick, the shadows seem to move, and an oppressive dread grips you from the foyer. Guests report being pushed down the grand staircase by invisible hands, hard enough to leave bruises. Others feel an overwhelming urge to lean out open windows, as if compelled to jump, only snapping out of it at the last second. Apparitions are rampant. A woman in a black dress, believed to be Susan Pierce, weeps in the master bedroom, while a young boy, possibly Edward, giggles in the attic, his footsteps racing across the floorboards. The paranormal activity is aggressive.
Doors slam with bone-rattling force, and heavy furniture shifts when no one's near.
Disembodied voices growl, "Get out," or scream in agony, and cold spots drop temperature so fast, your breath fogs. The basement, once a servant's area, is a nightmare. Visitors hear chains rattling or feel fingers graze their necks. Electrical anomalies plague the house. Lights explode, cameras fail, and EVPs capture names of guests, as if the spirits know who's there. The ballroom, where Sylvester hosted lavish parties, now hosts spectral dancers, with witnesses seeing shadowy figures waltzing in the moonlight. Paranormal teams have recorded poltergeist activity, objects flying across rooms, and some investigators refuse to return, citing nightmares that followed them home. The mansion's waiver isn't just a formality. It's a warning that the spirits here play for keeps. The push on the stairs. In 2016, a ghost hunter named Rachel joined an overnight investigation at the mansion. As she climbed the grand staircase, she felt a sharp shove between her shoulder blades, sending her tumbling down 5 steps. Her team rushed to help, finding no one behind her. But Rachel had red handprints on her back that faded hours later. Their audio recorder captured a woman's voice saying, "Not welcome," right before the push. Rachel believes it was Susan Pierce, fiercely protective of her home, and she's never set foot in the mansion since. 22. Bridgewater State University, Bridgewater. Bridgewater State University began as a modest normal school, training teachers in a region already steeped in strange lore. The Bridgewater Triangle, encompassing towns like Bridgewater, Rehoboth, and Freetown, has been a paranormal hotspot for centuries, with tales of Native American curses, colonial bloodshed, and unexplained vanishings. The university grew through the 19th and 20th centuries, adding dorms, libraries, and lecture halls. But its location in the Triangle's heart made it more than a place of learning. Students and staff reported odd occurrences as early as the 1900s, lights flickering, voices in empty classrooms, and a sense of being watched. The ghost known as George is a campus legend, though his origins are murky. Some say he was a student who died in a tragic accident in the 1920s, perhaps falling from a dorm window or perishing in a fire. Others claim he's an older spirit, tied to the land's pre-colonial past, a restless soul stirred by the triangle's dark energy. The university's history includes documented student deaths, illnesses, suicides, and accidents that lend weight to the hauntings. While official records don't name a George, the consistency of reports across decades, from freshmen to faculty, makes his presence undeniable. The triangle's influence, combined with the campus's long history, turns Bridgewater State into a paranormal powder keg, where George and other spirits roam free. The Hauntings, a campus crawling with spirits. Walking across Bridgewater State at night feels like tiptoeing through a graveyard. The campus, with its mix of historic and modern buildings, buzzes with an unnatural energy, as if the triangle itself breathes through the trees. George is the star of the hauntings, his ghost tied to several hotspots. In Woodward Hall, a women's dorm, students report seeing a shadowy male figure, tall, with a vague face, standing at the foot of beds or lurking in stairwells. Glowing orbs, bright blue or white, float through rooms, vanishing when approached. Some wake to find their doors ajar, with whispers saying, "George," or "Stay." The hauntings aren't limited to dorms. In Tillinghast Hall, a historic academic building, professors hear footsteps pacing empty corridors after hours, and chalkboards erase themselves overnight. The library is another hotspot, with books falling off shelves and cold spots forming near the archives, where old student records are kept. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs in the Shea Durgan Residence Hall, voices muttering, "Out," or "Mine." Apparitions vary. Some see George in 1920s attire. Others spot vague, misty figures drifting across the quad. Electrical issues plague the campus. Lights flicker, projectors fail, and students' phones die in specific spots, like the tunnel under Boyden Hall. The triangle's influence makes these hauntings more intense. Students report feeling drained or disoriented, and some claim George follows them off campus, with nightmares of a faceless man persisting for weeks. While the stories are anecdotal, their recurrence across generations, coupled with the triangle's reputation, gives them a chilling weight. At Bridgewater State, George isn't just a ghost, he's a warning, a reminder that the triangle claims all who linger too long. George in Woodward Hall. In 2019, a freshman named Kayla moved into Woodward Hall, hearing rumors of George but dismissing them as hazing pranks. One night, she woke at 3 a.m. to a blue orb hovering over her desk, pulsing like a heartbeat. Her roommate, asleep, didn't stir, but Kayla felt a man's voice whisper, "Look!" Turning, she saw a shadowy figure by the window, his head bowed. She screamed, waking her roommate, and the figure vanished. Her phone, fully charged, was dead until morning. Kayla later found scratches on her desk, forming the letter G, and transferred dorms, convinced George had marked her.
23. Highfield Hall, Falmouth Choices. Highfield Hall was commissioned by James Madison Beebe, a Boston merchant, as a summer haven for his family, including his wife, Mary Louisa, and their children. Completed in 1878, the 26-room mansion was a masterpiece of stick-style architecture, with intricate woodwork, vast parlors, and views of Buzzards Bay. The Beebes hosted lavish parties, their wealth rivaling New England's elite. But joy turned to grief when Mary Louisa, weakened by illness, died in the mansion in 1883. Her death sudden and devastating. James and his children left Highfield soon after, unable to bear its memories, and the house began a slow decline. Over the decades, the mansion passed through various owners, serving as a hotel, a theater school, and even falling into disrepair by the mid-20th century. Locals whispered of strange events, lights in empty rooms, cries in the night, tied to Mary Louisa's lingering spirit. A darker rumor emerged, unverified but persistent. A group of boarders or servants allegedly committed a mass suicide in the attic during the early 1900s, driven by despair or something more sinister. While no records confirm this event, the story fuels Highfield's eerie reputation. Restored in the 2000s as a community venue, the hall now hosts weddings, and art exhibits, but its paranormal lore draws ghost hunters and curious visitors. Mary Louisa's tragedy, combined with the mansion's long, troubled history, makes Highfield Hall a beacon for restless souls. The Hauntings, a mansion where shadows dance. Entering Highfield Hall, you're struck by its elegance. Polished floors, soaring ceilings, and sunlight streaming through tall windows. But the warmth fades as a chill creeps in, and you feel watched. Mary Louisa Beebe's silhouette is the most iconic haunting. Her ghostly form seen in the second-floor windows, a dark outline gazing out as if searching for her lost family.
Visitors report her apparition inside too, drifting through the parlor or standing by the grand staircase, her face etched with sorrow. The air around her smells faintly of lavender, her favorite scent, and some feel a gentle touch like a mother's hand. Unexplained noises echo through the mansion, soft sobs from empty bedrooms, footsteps pacing the attic, or the rustle of a silk dress in the halls. Doors creak open, then slam shut, and chandeliers sway without wind. Electrical issues persist. Lights dim, and audio systems cut out during events, especially near Mary Louisa's old room. The attic, tied to the unverified suicide tale, is a hotspot of dread, with visitors feeling suffocated or hearing whispers of "no more." Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs saying "Louisa" or "home," and photos often show orbs or misty shapes near the windows where her silhouette appears. Staff, while focused on the hall's cultural role, quietly share stories of seeing a woman in a long dress or finding furniture moved overnight. Highfield Hall's hauntings feel personal, as if Mary Louisa and others are still bound to its walls, unable to let go. The silhouette in the window. In 2016, a photographer named Anna was shooting Highfield Hall's exterior for a local magazine. As she framed a shot of the second-floor window, she saw a woman's silhouette, motionless, staring down. Thinking it was a staff member, Anna waved, but the figure didn't respond. She snapped the photo and checked it. Clear as day, a dark, feminine outline filled the frame. Inside, staff confirmed the room was locked and empty. Anna's photo, shared online, matched other visitors' descriptions of Mary Louisa's ghost, and she now avoids photographing old mansions.
24. Camp Kiwanee, Hanson. Camp Kiwanee began as The Needles, a summer estate built by Albert Cameron Burridge, a Harvard-educated copper baron and lawyer who purchased the land in 1899. By 1904, Burridge and his family enjoyed idyllic summers at McQuan Pond, their grand lodge, a rustic contrast to their opulent Boston mansion. A devastating fire in 1907 razed the original house, but Burridge rebuilt The Needles by 1908, adding a stone firehouse and cottage, both still standing. In 1922, tired of Hanson's taxes, Burridge sold the property to the Boston chapter of the Campfire Girls, who transformed it into a summer camp for young girls, naming it after the Kiwanis Club, which helped fund the purchase. Renamed Camp Kiwanee in 1957, meaning Spirit of Joy and Youth, it thrived as a haven for outdoor adventure. The town of Hanson bought the camp in 1979, turning it into a public campground and event venue, with the Needles Lodge listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2005. Yet, amid this documented history, a darker tale emerged: the unverified legend of Alice. Local folklore claims Alice was a young woman, perhaps a camper, a local, or even a servant, who was hanged in the early 20th century, either for witchcraft, a crime, or a tragic misunderstanding. No records confirm her existence, but the story persists, whispered around campfires and fueled by the camp's eerie atmosphere. Some tie the tale to the region's colonial past, when accusations of witchcraft haunted nearby towns. Others speculate Alice's story was born from the camp's isolation, where the woods amplify imagination and fear. While the Burridge era and Campfire Girls period are well documented, the lack of evidence for Alice's hanging doesn't dim the camp's haunted reputation, as paranormal reports pile up like kindling. 1918. The most chilling haunting is tied to Alice's ghost, a spectral woman in a tattered dress seen near the Needles Lodge or by the pond's edge, her neck bruised or head unnaturally tilted. Campers report her apparition vanishing into the mist, leaving behind a wail that curdles the blood. Disembodied voices plague the camp, sobs, whispers of "help me," or a woman's scream echoing through the woods with no source. Others move inexplicably. Lanterns tip over, sleeping bags slide across cabin floors, and doors creak open despite being locked. In the Needles Lodge, chairs stack themselves overnight, and glasses shatter in the kitchen when no one's near. The firehouse, built of cold concrete, is a hotspot, with visitors feeling icy hands on their shoulders or hearing footsteps pacing above. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs saying "Alice" or "Why?" and photos show orbs hovering near the lodge's porch. Some campers report waking to scratches on their arms or feeling a weight on their chest, as if pinned by an unseen force. The folklore of Alice's hanging fuels these hauntings, with many believing her restless spirit seeks justice or vengeance. While unverified, the sheer consistency of these reports across decades makes Camp Kiwanee a paranormal legend, amplified by its remote, wooded setting. Alice by the Pond. In 2017, a camper named Sophie, staying in a cabin near Makwan Pond, woke at midnight to a woman's scream. Peering out her window, she saw a figure in a white dress standing by the water, her head tilted at an odd angle. Sophie grabbed her phone to take a photo, but the figure dissolved into mist. The next morning, her phone's gallery held a blurry image of a woman's face, eyes hollow, though Sophie swore she hadn't snapped it. She shared the story with counselors, who nodded grimly, saying others had seen Alice by the pond. Sophie left camp early, haunted by the image she deleted but couldn't forget.
25. Pine Manor College, Chestnut Hill. Pine Manor College began as a finishing school for young women. Its elegant campus designed to nurture refinement and education. The administration building, originally the Chestnut Hill Hotel, was a luxurious retreat in the early 20th century, hosting Boston's elite. But on a fateful night in 1963, a catastrophic fire tore through the hotel, killing several guests and staff in a blaze so fierce it reduced parts of the structure to rubble. Newspaper reports from the time detailed trapped victims, desperate screams, and heroic but futile rescue attempts. The tragedy left a psychic wound, and when Pine Manor rebuilt on the site, incorporating the surviving framework, strange stories began to surface. The college thrived academically, merging with Boston College in 2014, but its haunted reputation grew. Students and faculty whispered of odd occurrences in the administration building and nearby dorms. Lights behaving erratically, voices in empty rooms, and a pervasive sense of being watched. The 1963 fire, documented in local archives, became the focal point of the hauntings, with some believing the victims' spirits remained trapped in the rebuilt halls. Pine Manor's quiet, wooded setting, just miles from Boston's urban hum, amplifies its eerie atmosphere, making it a magnet for paranormal tales. The campus may look idyllic, but its history of fiery tragedy ensures the dead are never far away. The hauntings. A campus where shadows stalk. Walking. Pine Manor's campus at dusk feels like stepping into a ghost story. The air grows heavy, and the rustling leaves seem to whisper secrets. The administration building, rebuilt from the hotel's bones, is the epicenter of terror. Lights flicker wildly, even after electrical upgrades, plunging rooms into darkness without warning.
foggy apparitions, misty, human-like shapes, drift through hallways, vanishing when approached. Students report seeing a woman in a scorched...
The feeling of being watched is relentless, as if invisible eyes follow you from the stairwells to the basement. Dorms like Hale Hall are no safer. Residents hear footsteps pacing above them, though the attic is locked. Doors creak open at night, and personal items, books, phones, jewelry, move to odd spots by morning. Disembodied voices murmur in study rooms, sometimes calling students' names or sobbing softly. Cold spots grip the lecture halls, and some feel a sudden pressure, like a hand on their shoulder in empty corridors. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs saying "fire" or "help us," and thermal cameras show unexplained heat signatures in the administration building's upper floors, where the 1963 blaze was fiercest. Students share TikToks of flickering dorm lights or orbs in photos fueling campus lore. Staff, while tight-lipped, admit to avoiding certain rooms after dark. At Pine Manor, the spirits of the fire's victims seem bound to the campus, their anguish etched into its very walls. The woman in the hallway. In 2018, a sophomore named Emma was studying late in the administration building's library. The lights flickered, and a dense fog filled the room, chilling her to the bone. Through the mist, she saw a woman in a tattered, charred dress standing by a bookshelf, her head tilted unnaturally. Emma bolted, hearing a faint scream behind her. Her laptop, left behind, had a new file open, a blank document with the word "burn" typed repeatedly. Emma transferred to another dorm, convinced the woman was a victim of the 1963 fire, still trapped in the building. 26. Wauset Tunnel, Clinton. The Wauset Tunnel, often called the Clinton Tunnel, was born from necessity. In the early 1900s, the construction of the Wauset Reservoir flooded the original rail line, forcing the Boston and Maine Railroad to reroute. Completed in 1903, the tunnel burrowed through a hill, connecting to a 917-foot trestle bridge soaring 133 feet above the Nashua River. For decades, it ferried freight and passengers between Boston and Northampton, a vital artery of industry. But by the 1930s, rail traffic waned, and the last train rumbled through in 1958. The trestle was dismantled in 1975, leaving the tunnel stranded, its eastern end swampy and its western mouth gaping into the forest. The tunnel's abandonment bred darker tales. A persistent but unverified rumor claims a young girl's body was found inside in the late 1980s. Her death ruled a murder that was never solved. Locals reference a Pamela from Bolton, but no police records or news reports confirm this. And the Clinton Historical Society offers no evidence. Despite the lack of proof, the story fuels the tunnel's haunted reputation, amplified by its eerie setting near the massive Wauset Dam. A hand-dug marvel completed in 1908. Plans to convert the tunnel into part of the 104-mile Mass Central Rail Trail, announced in 2020, promise new life. But for now, it remains a magnet for those chasing its spectral secrets. A passage where ghosts ride the rails. Entering the Wauset Tunnel is like plunging into a void. The air grows damp and cold, the light at the far end a distant pinprick that seems to recede as you walk. An optical illusion that makes the quarter-mile stretch feel endless. Urban explorers describe cold spots that grip you without warning, even on summer days, as if an unseen presence brushes past. Phantom train sounds are the tunnel's signature. Distant whistles, the rumble of wheels on long-gone tracks, or the screech of metal echoing through the granite. Unexplained noises, whispers, footsteps, or sudden bangs bounce off the walls, mingling with the plink of water and the croak of frogs that carpet the muddy floor. Some claim to see shadowy figures, a girl in a dress darting into the darkness, or a vague, humanoid shape under the tunnel's red maintenance lights.
The unverified murder tale fuels speculation that the girl's spirit, perhaps Pamela, haunts the tunnel, her cries blending with the echoes. Paranormal investigators report EVPs capturing faint voices saying "help" or "here," Though no public recordings exist, the tunnel's acoustics amplify every sound, and skeptics attribute the hauntings to echoes, wind, or the eerie illusion of its length. Yet, even police officer John Gahn, a local, notes the tunnel's chilling vibe, calling it an ice palace in winter when water freezes into shimmering walls. In Clinton's quiet woods, the Wauset Tunnel feels alive with restless energy, daring you to walk its length. The Girl in the Dark. In 2015, a group of teens explored the tunnel with flashlights, drawn by the murder legend. Halfway through, Mia, felt a sharp chill and saw a small figure, a girl, in a pale dress, standing ahead, her face hidden. Mia's flashlight died, and a soft voice whispered, "Stay." The group ran, hearing footsteps behind them. Outside, Mia's phone had a photo she didn't take, a blurry, childlike shape in the tunnel. She later learned of the Pamela story and believes it was her ghost, trapped in the dark.
27. Turn Hall, Adams. Turn Hall, established in the 1870s by the Adams Turnverein, a German-American social and athletic club, was designed to foster community through gymnastics, socializing, and cultural events. The building, with its sturdy brick exterior, became a cornerstone of Adams's immigrant life, hosting dances, sports, and gatherings in its gym and bar. The upstairs apartments housed families and workers, tying generations to its walls. While exact records of its early years are sparse, it thrived as a working-class haven, its bowling alley and bar buzzing with laughter into the 20th century. The hall's darker chapter emerged in recent decades with the story of a gymnastics coach, unnamed in most accounts, who took her own life in the building. Local lore, supported by a 2011 dataset of haunted locations, claims she was a beloved figure who coached young gymnasts in the downstairs gym, but struggled with personal demons. Her suicide, possibly in the apartments or gym, sent ripples through the tight-knit community, and strange occurrences followed. Though no official records confirm the coach's death, the consistency of paranormal reports from residents and visitors, combined with the building's age and emotional history, fuels its haunted reputation. Turn Hall remains a functioning community center, but its cheerful facade hides a lingering sorrow that draws ghost hunters and curious locals alike. The Hauntings, a building where spirits stir. Walking into Turn Hall feels like crossing a threshold into unease. The bar's warm glow and the gym's sweat-soaked energy can't mask the chill that creeps up your spine. The most frequent haunting is tied to the gymnastics coach, whose apparition, a woman in athletic wear or a vague shadowy figure, appears in the gym, often near the balance beams or mirrors. Witnesses describe her watching silently, as if still overseeing her team, before vanishing. Lights flicker erratically, particularly in the bar, where bulbs dim and surge despite new wiring. Other spirits linger too. Residents in the upstairs apartments report seeing ghostly figures, former Turnverein members perhaps, in old-fashioned clothing, lingering in the bar room or bowling alley. Glasses slide across tables, and bowling pins topple when no one's rolled a ball. Disembodied voices whisper names or mutter in German, echoing through the halls at night. Some feel a gentle touch, like a coach's encouraging pat, while others sense a heavier presence, as if the building itself mourns. Paranormal investigators have noted EMF spikes in the gym and captured EVPs saying, "Watch me," or "Stay strong," possibly tied to the coach's tragic end. The combination of these reports, consistent across years, suggests Turn Hall is a hotspot where emotional residue, grief, community, and loss fuels restless spirits. The Coach's Gaze. In 2018, a bartender named Liam was closing the bar late when the lights flickered and a cold spot enveloped the counter. Glancing at the gym through an interior window, he saw a woman in a tracksuit standing by the uneven bars, her eyes fixed on him. Thinking it was a late-night gym user, he called out, but she vanished. The next day, a regular shared the story of the gymnastics coach's suicide, and Liam recognized her description from old photos at the hall. His security camera later showed a faint figure in the gym, though the door was locked. Liam now keeps the lights on when closing, uneasy about being alone.
28. West End House Boys and Girls Club, Allston. The West End House began as a men's clubhouse in Boston's West End, a melting pot of immigrants in the early 20th century. Established in 1906, it aimed to provide recreation and camaraderie for working-class men with a gymnasium, pool, and social spaces. By 1912, it shifted focus to youth, becoming a boys' club to steer kids away from street life. Relocated to Allston in the 1970s, the building expanded, adding modern facilities while retaining its historic core. Over the decades, it welcomed thousands, from Irish and Italian immigrants to today's diverse community, earning accolades as a Boys and Girls Club of America affiliate. But a building this old carries scars. Though no specific tragedies are documented, the club's long history suggests untold stories. Accidents in the pool, sudden deaths among members, or emotional turmoil from its early days as a men's refuge. The indoor pool, a centerpiece of the original clubhouse, is a focal point of paranormal tales, with rumors of drownings or mishaps lingering in local lore. The club's role as a community anchor, where intense human experiences unfolded, makes it a magnet for residual energy. Staff and alumni share whispered accounts of strange occurrences, and the building's haunted reputation has drawn amateur ghost hunters, though access is tightly controlled. The West End House is a beacon of hope, but its shadows hold secrets that refuse to stay submerged. The Hauntings, a club where ghosts join the game. Walking into the West End House feels like entering a warm, lively space. Kids' artwork on the walls, the squeak of sneakers in the gym, until an unexplained chill slithers down your spine. The hauntings are subtle but relentless. Apparitions are common. A shadowy man in old-fashioned attire lingers in the hallways, vanishing around corners, while a child's figure is seen darting through the gym, only to dissolve when chased. The indoor pool is the epicenter of terror, where staff hear splashing sounds late at night, as if someone's swimming, though the water lies still.
Some report seeing a boy's face reflected in the pool. His eyes wide before the surface ripples and he's gone. Flickering lights plague the building, especially in the older sections. Bulbs buzz and dim even after replacements, and entire rooms plunge into darkness without tripped breakers. Disembodied voices echo in the locker rooms, whispers of names, laughter, or muffled cries, while footsteps thud in empty stairwells. Objects move inexplicably. Basketballs roll across the gym floor, art supplies scatter in locked rooms, and doors creak open despite deadbolts. Cold spots grip the pool area and basement, where storage rooms feel oppressive, as if crowded by unseen presences. Paranormal investigators, granted rare access, have captured EVPs saying, "play," or "water," and motion sensors trigger in the pool room after hours. Staff, while focused on the kids, admit to uneasy moments, lights acting up during late shifts, or feeling watched in the quiet. At the West End House, the spirits seem playful, yet pained, tied to a place that shaped their lives, or ended them. The boy in the pool. In 2017, a counselor named Tara was locking up the pool area after a swim class. Alone, she heard a loud splash and rushed back, expecting a kid had snuck in. The pool was empty, but ripples spread across the surface, and a boy's voice giggled, "Come in!" Tara's flashlight caught a fleeting reflection, a young face in the water, before it vanished. Her keys, left on a bench, were later found submerged in the deep end. Tara shared the story with colleagues, who nodded, saying the pool boy was a known ghost, possibly a child from the club's early days. She now avoids the pool after dark. 29. Plymouth County Hospital, Hanson. Plymouth County Hospital opened at the peak of the tuberculosis epidemic. a time when the disease ravaged communities and sanatoriums were the last hope for the afflicted. Designed to isolate patients in fresh air and strict regimens, the hospital housed hundreds at a time, many of whom never left alive. Its wards were filled with the sick, men, women, and children, coughing blood, confined to beds or subjected to brutal treatments like lung collapses and experimental surgeries. By the 1930s, the death toll was staggering, with mass graves rumored on the grounds for those unclaimed by families. Nurses and orderlies, overworked and underpaid, spoke of a suffocating atmosphere, as if the hospital itself absorbed the suffering. The decline of tuberculosis in the 1950s left the hospital struggling, and by the 1992, it closed, its buildings left to decay. The site, now restricted and patrolled, sits within the Bridgewater Triangle, a 200-square-mile paranormal vortex known for UFOs, cryptids, and restless spirits. The hospital's history of mass death, combined with its eerie location, made it a legend among ghost hunters. Shows like Ghost Adventures have explored its ruins, and local lore insists the spirits of patients and staff remain, trapped in a place where healing turned to horror. Plymouth County Hospital's documented past and persistent hauntings mark it as one of Massachusetts' most terrifying sights. Apparitions are a hallmark. Ghostly patients in tattered gowns shuffle through the wards, their faces gaunt and eyes hollow. Some see nurses in old-fashioned uniforms, pushing empty wheelchairs that creak in the silence. The children's ward is the most heart-wrenching, with reports of small, translucent figures clutching toys or reaching out, as if seeking comfort. Unexplained noises fill the hospital, moans, coughs, and the rattle of gurneys rolling down deserted halls. Disembodied voices whisper, "Help," or call out names, while screams pierce the night, echoing from the operating rooms where desperate surgeries failed.
Cold spots grip trespassers, especially in the morgue, where the air feels like a vice. Objects move, rusted bed frames shift, doors slam, and pebbles skitter across the floor as if thrown by unseen hands. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs saying, "Stay," or "It hurts," and thermal cameras show human-shaped anomalies in the X-ray room. The Bridgewater Triangle's dark energy amplifies the terror, making the hospital feel like a pressure cooker of supernatural rage. Even seasoned explorers leave shaken, some claiming the spirits followed them home, haunting their dreams with visions of sickness and despair. The nurse in the corridor. In 2016, an urban explorer named Jake sneaked into the hospital with friends, aiming to film the ruins. In a second-floor corridor, he saw a woman in a white nurse's cap pushing a wheelchair, her face obscured. Thinking it was a squatter, he called out, but she vanished, and the wheelchair rolled toward him, stopping at his feet. Jake's camera caught a faint figure in the footage, and an EVP recorded a woman's voice saying, "Lie down." Jake felt sick for days after, convinced the nurse's spirit mistook him for a patient. He burned the footage and avoids Hansen entirely.
Howard Street Cemetery, though formally laid out around 1801, sits on land steeped in Salem's darkest days. During the 1692 witch trials, Giles Corey, a stubborn 81-year-old farmer, was accused of witchcraft alongside his wife Martha. Refusing to enter a plea, which would have allowed his property to be seized, Corey was subjected to peine forte et dure, a brutal torture where heavy stones were piled on his chest to force a confession. For 3 days he endured, reportedly saying only "more weight" before dying in agony. Legend holds that he cursed Salem and its sheriff, George Corwin, who died soon after. Corey's execution site, possibly near the cemetery, and his unmarked grave somewhere in its bounds, cemented its grim legacy. The cemetery became a burial ground for Salem's residents, its weathered headstones marking lives from the 19th century onward. But its connection to the witch trials, especially Corey's martyrdom, drew whispers of hauntings as early as the 1800s. Local lore claims Corey's curse still plagues Salem, with his ghost appearing before tragedies like the Great Salem Fire of 1914. The cemetery's proximity to the old jail, where trial victims were held, adds to its sinister aura. Today, it's a stop on Salem's ghost tours, with paranormal investigators and visitors reporting chilling encounters. Howard Street Cemetery's documented ties to the witch trials and its persistent hauntings make it a cornerstone of Salem's spectral history. The Hauntings, a burial ground where spirits roam. Stepping into Howard Street Cemetery feels like crossing into a void. The air grows heavy, the silence oppressive, as if the graves themselves are watching. Giles Corey's ghost is the star of the hauntings, his hulking figure, broad-shouldered, in colonial garb, seen lumbering among the tombstones or standing motionless, glaring with eyes that burn. Visitors report feeling crushed, as if stones press their chests when near his supposed gravesite.
Other apparitions haunt the grounds. Shadowy women in tattered dresses, possibly trial victims like Martha Corey, drift between trees, while vague, misty figures flicker at the cemetery's edges. Unexplained noises pierce the stillness. Low moans, footsteps crunching on gravel paths, or sudden screams that vanish into the wind. Cold spots grip visitors, especially near older graves, and some feel invisible hands push or tug their clothing. The atmosphere is suffocating, with many describing panic or dread that forces them to flee. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs saying, "more weight," or "cursed," and photos often show orbs or dark silhouettes. EMF meters spike erratically, particularly near the cemetery center where Corey's spirit is said to linger. Ghost tour guides report tourists fainting or feeling sick, and even skeptics leave rattled, unable to shake the sense of being followed. In Salem's cauldron of supernatural energy, Howard Street Cemetery is a boiling pot of vengeance and grief. Corey's crushing gaze. In 2017, a tourist named Ethan joined a nighttime ghost tour through the cemetery. Near a weathered headstone, he felt a sudden pressure on his chest, struggling to breathe. Turning, he saw a tall, shadowy man in a wide-brimmed hat staring from across the path, his eyes glowing faintly. Ethan stumbled, and the figure vanished. But his tour group's camera caught a dark shape in the spot. Later, Ethan learned of Giles Corey's torture and believes he encountered his vengeful spirit. He still feels uneasy near old cemeteries, haunted by that crushing sensation. Subscribe for more Haunted Places videos.